Hey everybody, welcome back to Charming Data. I hope you had a wonderful week and a good rest. In this tutorial, which I'm very excited to teach you, I'm going to give you an in-depth overview of Plotly. I'm also going to show you the difference between Plotly Express and Plotly Graph objects, and I'm going to show you how to navigate Plotly's documentation so you can create any graph that you will like with Plotly. All these pie charts, bar charts, scatter plots, maps, statistical, artificial intelligence, machine learning graphs, scientific and financial, all of these, hopefully you'll be able to create on your own because I'm going to show you how to navigate Plotly's documentation to do that. So by the end of this tutorial, you're going to learn four things. You're going to know why you should use Plotly and not other data visualization platforms. You're going to know how to navigate Plotly's documentation so you can create any graph that you want. You're also going to learn how to join the family and get some love from us and get the support that you need when you get stuck and when you need it. And lastly, I'm going to show you how to share your graphs and data visualizations with the rest of the world. Okay, if you don't have time to see the whole tutorial, I would really recommend seeing point number 2, which is the navigating Plotly's documentation to create the graphs that you want, because this is the core of the tutorial and will really help you save a lot of time in the future. To do so, just open under the video, open up all the links, but specifically go to video layout and choose the section that you would like to see. All right, so let's get started. Why Plotly? Why you should use Plotly and other platforms? For several reasons. The first reason is Plotly is one of the only platforms out there where you can create interactive data visualization dashboards and graphs using pure Python and also deploying them to the web as web apps. There's really very few platforms out there that do that, and this is the biggest advantage that Plotly has. The second reason is Plotly, you can use Plotly with R or with Julia and a few other languages in case you do not know Python. The other reason is Plotly is very efficient. So you can create very powerful graphs with just a very few lines of code. Like you see here, this is what, 2-3 lines of code, and we have a box plot here and another 3 lines of code with a box plot here. So it's very quick and it's very powerful tool to use for any type of graph that you want to use. Plus, there's like a gazillion different graphs that you can do with Plotly. To start and to install, which is also very easy, all you have to do is go into your command prompt like this. Open this right here. Oh, it's not opening. Okay. Command prompt and just cd into your whatever project folder it is, and then just do pip install Plotly. Or if you're using Conda, just type this Conda line and it will install Plotly through Conda. It will install the latest version unless you tell it what version you want to install. You can do the same thing with the terminal. You don't have to do it through command prompt. Just open your PyCharm or Visual Studios or Spider Terminal and just do pip install Plotly. If you want to use Jupyter Notebooks, you can also do that in a very similar way. But I would recommend seeing the video above. If it's helpful for you, I will, in the video, I teach how to set up and install Jupyter Lab and use Jupyter Dash and Plotly inside Jupyter Lab. You don't have to install or use the Dash part. If you want to, you can just use the Plotly part if that's what you prefer. Okay, so how can we navigate the Plotly documentation so you can use any or build any type of chart that you want? Before I'll show you my strategy of navigating the documentation, I want to make clear the difference between Plotly Express and Plotly Graph objects. Plotly Express is to Plotly Graph objects as Seaborn is to Matplotlib. In other words, Plotly Express is very similar to Seaborn. It's a quick way to create powerful graphs with just a few attributes. If you're doing a scatter plot, all you have to define is the x-axis, the y-axis, and the data that you're using. That's it. It calculates a bunch of different attributes on the back end, and you have a beautiful scatter plot for you to use. If you want to use graph objects, which you will eventually use, you have to build everything from the bottom up. So to use the graph objects, let's go here, for example, into the bar charts, you have to define the data, you have to define the layout, and you have to define sometimes the frame if you're going to use frames as well. So the strategy is, my general recommendation, start with Plotly Express, build whatever you can build with that, and then if you need to further customize your graph, then you should use Plotly Graph Objects. So I'm going to show you how to do exactly that right now. So open this documentation under the video and go all the way down. Let's go down here, right there. And going to step number A. So the first thing you want to do is initiate your graph with Plotly sample code and adapt it to your data. So take the sample code, or at least open this web page that is what you saw a second ago with all the different graphs, and just take your data and scroll here and just decide what graph would work the best with your data. All right, so as an example, let's do a real life example. It's easier to understand. We're going to use this data. This data is data that was taken from Virginia Tech and this website, the PeerJ. And it's data that talks about birds that die due to the fact that they collide against windows. It's very sad, but I want to raise awareness on birds and what we can do to help them, because almost 1 billion birds a year die in the US from colliding inside windows because they mistaken the window for the sky. And so I want to make sure that we can do something about it. So this is the data from 2013 to 2015. And Virginia Tech did an analysis, observation of building number, and from their buildings, how many deaths per buildings. So looking at this data, what I would like to do, you can do many different graphs. What I would like to do here is a pie chart, because I want to compare between the number of deaths per building. I want to see the relationship between those. So according to step 1, initiate your graphs with the sample code and adapt it to your data. So let's take the sample code. Let's close this. We'll take the sample code that we just opened up, basic chart. Let's go to pie chart, because that's what we want to create. And then we're going to go to, you can look all the different sample codes that they have here. You can look at the pie chart that you think is going to be the most similar to the type of data you're going to use. I'm going to take the basic one, that's Plotly Express PX right here. And I'm just going to copy paste it, right? I'm going to put it in here. We're going to copy paste, save it, and then we're going to run it. So now we'll see this pie chart that comes up right here. All right, so we have the days, and this is tips. This is analysis of tips inside a restaurant. Now I'm going to adapt my data to this graph. So instead of days, I'm going to put building number, and instead of tips, I'm going to put deaths. Values tip, let's put deaths of birds. This, don't forget, this is a data frame that is inside DFB. I already put this in there. This is a Pandas data frame that is reading the CSV Excel sheet. So each column is a column inside the Pandas data frame. So I'm going to use the Pandas data frame. The values is going to be death, and the name is going to be building. I think. Oh, how did they spell building? BLDG. Yeah, BLDG. Underscore save. Okay, so let's see what we come up with. Instead of days, we'll create a new chart when we run this with building number and the averages in each building. And we see that building number 12 and building number 11 has the highest amount of percentage of birds that die. Maybe they have more windows, or for whatever reason, an interesting analysis. So we just completed step number 1. We adapted our data to the sample code in Plotly. Step number 2, enhance your graph with Plotly Express high-level interface. So rarely are you going to use only the attributes inside the sample code. You're probably going to want to use more attributes. Plotly Express High Interface has those attributes. So go into this, open, we're step 2, open the Plotly Express high-level interface documentation. And here you see all the different charts that you can, and graphs that you can create with Plotly Express. Go into the pie, because that is what you are creating right now. And here you see all the different attributes. Plotly has thousands of different attributes, but that's in graph objects. That's later in step 3 if we want to customize even more our plot. Right now, we're just going to use these attributes to enhance our graph. So here you can read all over the different attributes and what they do. You can manage the hover data. You can look into the labels, the title. I want to change the color. So the color is not by building, but it's going to be by side. So each side represents a different color of the building, and I'm going to manage the whole because I want it to be a donut instead of a pie. So you see whole means float. So I gotta, oops, don't need to open that. I need to define it as a float, and the color I can just define as Panda's data frame, one of the columns. So let's do exactly that. Let's go here and we'll say color is going to be side. That is one of the columns in data frame, and the whole, let's then make it 0.3 size. So now if I save it and I run it, instead of this, we're going to get a donut, and we're going to get the colors is not colors of buildings, but it's color of size of the building. So this side is side E, and then you can see that the purple, which is side B, has a great majority of the birds that collide against that side of the building. Maybe it's because it's facing north and the birds are coming from the north. Not sure, but it's a very interesting analysis. Okay, so we looked at the Plotly Express in high-level interface. Now, there might be some things that you want to do that do not exist here because we don't have all the attributes that Plotly Graph Objects has. We only have this. So for example, let's say you want to change the text inside the slices, inside the markers. So it has a different color to it. They're all white. And maybe you want to add the label instead of percentage. You also want to add the building number inside as text. So it's not only in the hover, but it's inside the slice. Well, you'll go into Plotly Express interface and you'll see that does not exist. There's nothing in here that talks about changing the text inside the slice or changing the color of it. That is where step 3 comes in, and then we're talking about the Plotly Graph Objects, okay? And we're going to use Fig Update to update those attributes. Let's start slowly. Click on this, and this will open the main page of the figure reference. And here you'll see that it's divided into two separate, well, many sections, but I'm going to highlight 2 sections. Anything that is under here, the trace types and all these graphs, are things that you will use when you want to do update traces. Okay, I'll explain this in a sec. Remember, anything under here is update traces, right? And anything under layout is update layout. What do I mean by that? To further customize your graph using graph objects, you will have to do fig.update underscore, and here are all the different options of update in Plotly. There's about 12 or 13 options. The ones you are going to use the most are layout and traces, the first 2, right? So I gave you an example here. Layout and traces are the ones you're going to use the most. There's a few more common ones, but almost always you're going to use these top 2. The difference between the 2 is layout represents, as you can see here, layout represents the attributes or the charts. So it represents the color, the tick, the hover, the legend, really how to different ways that you can change the chart so it embellishes it and looks prettier and more user-friendly for your user or for yourself. Traces represents the data. Very important to remember. Traces represents the data that goes inside the layout. Now, you won't necessarily remember or know exactly what you want, what is defined as trace and what is defined as layout. But that is completely fine because what you know is what you want to do. Once you know what you want to do with your graph, then you can start looking for it and searching in the documentation and see if it falls under traces or if it falls under layout. So let's continue based on our example and see where we land, where we go from here. So let's say we wanted to control the text inside the slices. So now we also have the label inside, and not only the percentage, we also want the label of the building. So my recommendation is go into this page and then open your pie graph, because this is a graph that you're using. And then when you're in here, just hit Control F in your browser so you can so this search box is open. And now think of the keyword that you want to use that will lead you to what you want to do with your graph. So here I want to do something about text. I want to do something about text inside. So I'm going to look at inside because there's probably fewer inside than text. And you'll see that here text position is an attribute, is not necessarily what we want. We want to do the text inside. We want to change the add label. Inside text font is not what we want. So continue, enter, 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 side text orientation. Not here. We did over 8. We're not successful. It's not. We shouldn't use the word inside. It doesn't make sense. We couldn't find what we wanted. So let's use. We know we want to change the label and percent. So maybe we'll go into percent and we'll look for percent. Percent here. Percent hover. It's not there. Okay, text info. So this is actually, now we found the attribute that we want. We want text info because text info tells us that it determines which trace information appears on the graph. We have 3 options: label, text, and value, and we can do plus or if we to decide what we want inside those slices. Okay, so how do we implement this into the update? What we have to do here is we have to see if the parent says data, which it will always say because you're under the traces, then you have to do update traces. Okay, complete this by update traces. Now, inside you see this attribute, it says text info. This is what you have to copy paste. Just go into text info equals, and now choose, it says it's a string, right? It's a string, so now choose whatever you want. So we want percent and label inside our graph. Inside our pie, so we'll open the string and we'll do label plus percent, save it, play it, and now we will see that instead of this, we'll get a new chart with percent and the label of the building, so I don't have to hover. I can already see what building is in each pie slice. Let's do another thing. Instead of, in addition to this, let's change the color of the text inside the slices. So you will do exactly the same thing. Go back to your step 3, to the graph objects page, go into the pie and open Control F and look for, now we want to change the color, right? Color has 41 different options here. It's really hard to find. So maybe let's not use color. Maybe we'll use inside. Maybe it's text or text info. I think it's called text info. So we'll go into info. Okay, text info. No, it's not actually, it's not that. So we'll keep on looking inside text info. So you'll see this is the attribute, and inside text info we have family and size and we have color. So we'll do the same thing. We know that the parent is data, so we know we have to do update traces. We'll copy paste this and we'll do update traces. We have update traces here, so we'll just do this equals, and now the next level down is color, but we can't just do, because color has is an attribute that has a value to it, we have to open a dictionary. We can't just do color equals white. That doesn't make sense and it doesn't work and it's not Pythonic. So if you have more than one level down, if you have a gray bar here, that usually means that you have more than one level down, you have to start opening a dictionary. So open a dictionary, just like this. And here you can put color attribute equals, and now you can choose the color string that you would want. So if I want white, I'll put white. Let's save this, and let's see how it updates our chart from this to a chart with white text inside of it, just like this. Okay? So we did this with the update traces. But let's say I want to change something in the legend as an example, because now when I click on the legend, it unclicks, it makes the slice disappear from the pie chart. I click on 1, it makes the 1 disappear from the pie chart, and there's just too many building numbers here. I do not want to give the user this option, so I want to take that click option away from the legend. Usually legend is part of a layout update. If you go in here, you'll see a layout, you'll see legend. But you might not know this. You might not know if what you want to change is layout or is it traces. So just start with traces. Go to the trace, open your pie, do a Control F again, and just look for legend. There's a lot of legends here, and you'll see it talks about a visible attribute, so it's not what we want. We want to look more about click. It's show legend, and it's legend group. So it just doesn't have it here. It's not under the traces. So the next place you want to look into is the layout, which is under here. Anything under here is layout. So we'll go into legend, and here you'll see if you control find, let's put, instead of legend, let's put click, because we want to change the click, and it happens to be the first attribute. It says item click, and it will say determines the behavior on legend item click. So you can have either toggle or toggle others or false. So because the parent is layout, because it was under this section of the page, under the layout, and because the parent is layout, you have to do update layouts. So we'll enter here, go open a new line, just do fig, update layout like this, and inside, let's see, we have a gray line here. That usually means that it's 2 levels down, and when it's 2 levels down, you're going to have to open a dictionary. If it's 3 levels down, you're going to have to open 2 dictionaries, and so on and so on. So here we see that the parent is layout legend. So let's put legend as the value of the first attribute inside update layout, and now we'll open a dictionary, and inside, let's do it differently. Instead of this, we'll just open a dictionary like that. Item clicked. What do I do? Item clicked. Item click. And here, because this is a dictionary, we'll do like this, and then we'll do, that's the key, and the value will be false because I don't want the item to be clicked. So I'll click on false. Perfect. And now I save this. I'll see that I cannot click on an item. If I click on an item, it doesn't work. If I double click, it'll probably change it because there's a double click in here, but if I click once, it doesn't change anything. So we just learned how to use traces and how to use the layout. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see what to do in case you get stuck. My first recommendation if you get stuck after reading all the documentation is don't forget to read this. Go in here and read this fundamental documentations if you missed it. Just make sure to go over this at least once. This fundamentals part will talk to you all about formatting ticks and legends and axes, multiple axes, hover text, all of which is inside this big API documentation, but it gives you many different examples that you can just copy paste and use instead of looking for everything inside the documentation. So this is one great tip of that really helped me if I get stuck. The second thing you can do if you get stuck is join the Plotly family. And to join the Plotly family, just go into Plotly forum. If you don't have, if you haven't signed up, just open this and just sign up. This is my logo here. Feel free to write me whenever you want, but just go into Plotly and you'll see sign up. And you'll be able to, with an email and password, you'll create your new membership, and then you can join the Plotly forum and you can ask any questions you want. Before you ask any questions, please just search for what you're looking for. And this is, so many questions have been answered before, so you'll probably 99% of the time you'll find what you need. You have questions about how to change a label inside legend, right? And you have 7 different results of people that wanted to change labels inside legend and how on different graphs and how they did it. And you can click on it and see it. You can actually use the advanced search if you want to go into focus on like categories on Plotly Python or in R, or maybe you want to use Dash instead, just categorize by doing that. Okay, so that was how to get help if you get stuck. The next and last thing I want to teach you is how to share your documentation. Your graph. I've been talking about documentation now. That's the only thing I'm saying. So to share your graph, you want to install Kaleido. This is a great platform, very powerful, that Plotly just created. So to do that, Kaleido, let's double click on this. We'll go over A in a sec. Click on that, and that will open. Did it open it? Right. Okay. Here you go. So Kaleido, hopefully I'm saying it correctly, is a great way to save your graphs using using either as PNG or JPEG, but you have to use the right image method. So first things first, make sure you install Kaleido because it doesn't come automatically with Plotly, not yet, maybe in future versions. So just pip install Kaleido inside your terminal or command prompt. And then all you have to do once you have your figure created, you just go in there and save it however you want to save it. So let's say I want to save it as PNG, copy paste, we'll go in here and we'll go PNG. Make sure that you have, I'm going to save it inside an images folder. So make sure you have an images folder, or not. If you don't, just do like this. If you want to save it inside the same folder as your Python file. So I'm going to say this PNG. That is going to run it again, and I'm going to open the images folder, and now we'll see images. Where is it? There you go. PNG. So now if I double click on this, I have a PNG image that's saved beautifully as the pie chart that I can actually send via email to my friends or the rest of the world. Another way to share your images or your graphs with the rest of the world is by using Dash. If you learn a little bit of Dash, which is what my channel is all about, very quickly you'll be able to create powerful interactive dashboards that you can share with the world using Heroku. You can use many different platforms. I have a video up here that talks about how to use Heroku within a few files and modifications that you can just upload to the web, and then you'll have your own URL. So you can just share the URL with anybody else, and they can play around with interactivity with the plots on the web page as a website, because you're actually creating your own web app. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot. If you did, click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notifications so you can receive every week, every Saturday morning, I do a video on different data visualizations and all the cool things you can do with Plotly and Dash. So don't forget to turn on your notifications. And please, 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 I want to raise awareness about birds. Millions and millions of them die every year because they collide against windows when they think they're flying into the sky. So just make sure that if you're inside your apartment, to put something inside right by the window so they don't think it's the sky, and you can save a lot of little birds' lives. Keep practicing, never give up, and don't forget, we're better together, so always help other people out. Thank you, and I'll see you next Saturday.